Well, since you saw me in that last video, a whole heap has happened actually. And that's because I had a bunch of work come on, and I was doing an hour here and a couple of hours there and a bit here and a bit there, and it just got really complex, and I don't know, maybe I got a bit focused on building and not cameras. Anyway, we are where we are and we've come a long way. So in this video, I'm going to take you through where we're up to in the COVID 80 and talk through a bunch of the changes I've made, how I've done things, and just help you understand where we're at. So let's just start here at the front of the vehicle. So we've got the winch mounted in. So how's that happened? So I rang up my mates down there at Roadrunner Off-Road. They do a whole bunch of off-road componentry and accessories and stuff like that. Really good gear. So I rang them up and I said, guys, I need a winch cradle, because they have these winch cradle templates. Okay, and it's just a blank, and you're going to make it work for your application. Great if you're building a custom rig. It works here, but I did wind up cutting up a lot more of the bracket than I anticipated, but it's worked. And what it's done behind the alloy bar, it's given me a whole plate right across the bar, so that the winch is now located and locked in place and solid. Okay, so I've made all of that. Then they supplied me with a nice horse for the front there. See, Roadrunner Off-Road, all branded in that flash. But what they've also done is given me some of this Whittam rope. This is an Australian-made synthetic rope. I've never run it before. I've heard about it before. That's kind of cool. It looks like nice gear. So they've supplied me all of that and said, look, run that on the truck, beaut. And then I've put the Factor 55 ProLink shackle mount on there, so that my young fella's got, that there has been on 2 of my vehicles. Now it's going on the 3rd. So great piece of kit. Then I've got the Ultravision spotlights up the front. These are again an Australian-made light, made in Swan Hill, and like when I say Australian made, like 99% of the light is Australian made. And these are, I'm going to say it, I've not seen a better light on the Australian market. I'm not saying they're not there, but I've not seen them. And I have mates say, oh, look at these new spotties, and they show me, and I'm like, you haven't seen what I'm running. So I'm running these on all of my trucks. And yeah, they've supplied these lights a number of years ago, but I'm just telling you what I honestly think. There's no deal between us anymore, between these guys and us. We're friends, but that's it. But they have got a new range of lights come out, which are a lower cost point. Still probably the same quality or similar quality, but priced differently, probably manufactured differently as well to get that price down. I do plan to get a hold of some of those and run them and see what we think, and maybe do a comparison between the 2 levels of light. So anyway, so that's the light side of it. And if you want any of that stuff, or even the Oricom gear, if you use the code MADMAT, you get 20 bucks off on the A247 website. I'll put a link down below. Basically, you get a saving, and it helps support the channel so I can keep making video content. Then I had a chat to the guys at Oricom, because I've been running the Oricom dual receive radio for a number of years. I'm perfectly happy with that radio. Probably the only criticism I have is the speaker volume is too quiet and a bit distorted, but I've been running it pretty happily. And I said, guys, I need an aerial and a base for the vehicle. So they've given me this aerial. This is what they call their town and country aerial. Let me show you how this all works. So this is a top section of the aerial. At the moment, with this on, it's a 6.5 dB UHF aerial. Now, with it, this setup is going to give you a 3 dB aerial. And there's a little cap to cover the thread when you run it at 3 dB. So this is great in the hilly areas. This is going to be great in those flat, low sort of country like the outback and stuff like that. But then they've given me one of these mounts so you can run the aerial back as well. So that's some pretty nice bling for the young fella. Again, you can get those at A247. All right, let's have a look here in the engine bay, what we've done here. That's the ARB compressor that came out of the old truck. So to mount that, this was the cruise control module. So I had to move the cruise control module this way so that the air compressor could fit in here. That's so he can air up his tyres. And then this is the locker line going down to the rear diff. And yeah, so I just juggled things around there, but that's all set up and working perfectly. Over here, I've got the 2 diff breathers, the extended diff breathers. So rear diff, front diff, and yeah, so they're in place. And yeah, so now we'll head on over to the other side of the car. I covered off everything I wanted to show you there. All the wiring's running across here for the winching, for the spotlights, for the dual battery system, which I'll show you how cool that is. And I've also put the LED upgraded headlights in high and low beam, so they're installed in there. That was just a straight swap from the old truck, but yeah, that's in there. So with regards to the dual battery system, this isn't really a dual battery system. See this wire here? That goes directly to the start battery. So I've just wired these 2 batteries together because I don't have a solenoid to separate them and run it properly. As long as the batteries are in good condition, and you know, I'll show you a battery monitoring system I've got in here, but as long as those batteries are in good condition, they're going to work okay like this. The issue is, if they both go flat, you ain't starting your car. So it's not the ideal way to do it, but I didn't have the components, and you can run it this way. You just got to know what you're doing. I want to show you these devices here. Again, this is from Aurecom. This is their battery monitoring system. Now, they gave me 2, one for each battery, and when they gave them to me, I'm like, yeah, this sounds like a gimmick. I wasn't convinced. Well, look, I put them in, and the way they work, you use your phone, you scan the QR code, you download an app, then you scan the QR code again on that battery, and it registers that battery into the app. Once you're in the app, you can tune 2 batteries. You can actually do up to 4 batteries inside the app. So you know then the condition of each battery. Now what I've found, it not only tells me the voltage in the battery now, I can run a test so that I can check whether the alternator is charging correctly, and I'm getting and you know what's going on there. So that's quite a nice feature. If ever you were wondering what your charging system's doing, you can just push the button, does a test, it says it's all good. And every time you start the vehicle, it also does a battery capacity check and tells you how the health of the battery is. So I was actually surprised. I thought that's actually really usable information for me. Like it's helpful. But here's where I think it would actually be really, really helpful. Like most of us, you probably run a voltmeter for your dual battery system, but that's in the car somewhere. And so you know the voltage of the battery. But you're sitting around the campfire having a few sherbets and you want to know the voltage of your battery. You can simply look at the app and it'll tell you whether it's time to go and turn the fridge off or not, because you're going to know from the device. I reckon that makes it very usable. I installed the Toyota viscous coupling. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, top these up with an extra tube of silicone. In my opinion, that works good. And that's working a treat now, so we've got that on. So I've got all the wiring that comes from this area up through here. I've run it in and in under through this grommet over here, just down in there. Now I've actually done a little video showing how I ran the wiring through the grommet. I know you can use a bit of wire and a coat hanger and poke. It's rubbish way to do it. Yes, I know it works. I've been there, done that. But I'll show you another way which is actually pretty cool and works an absolute treat. So I'll try and link that video into here for you. Now, I actually did this video for my Facebook and Instagram following. And if you're not over there, hey, head on over and follow what I do over there as well. It's a very different space. I tend to post up there every day, just what I'm doing in my life and what's going on and all that. So head on over there, just Mad Matt Fall Drive. I'll be there and I'll annoy you for the rest of your life. All right, let me show you this little hack of getting wires through the firewall. Hey, g'day guys. So, you know the pain of putting things through firewall grommets like this one here, mainly wires. You know, we want to run UHF cables and power cables and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm working on the Cobit 80, and I thought, well, I'll show you a trick that I've used and I'm going to use now. So I've got to run, what I'm doing is I've got another one of these battery distribution things. So these are kind of cool in the Toyotas. You have accessories, ignition and battery, positive power and an earth terminal, all in this little box. Now, I've got a second one of these, all right? So I'm going to mount this one inside the cab and replicate it. So I obviously need to run all the cabling for that into the cab off here, but I've also got UHF cables and a bunch of other stuff. So what I'm going to do, I've got this little silicone tube, all right? So I've got a little bit of silicone spray here. Because I'm holding my phone, we'll do it like this. Spray that up, all right? And then we can just poke that into the grommet hole. Give that a good shove. Okay, make sure you don't upset your grommet. You don't want to push the grommet into the car. Just get that through as much as it'll allow. That seems to be all she wants to do. And then we get our Stanley knife. Come round the inside of the car. Now, I don't know if I've got enough daylight in here. I don't. Anyway, you can't really see it. That sucks. But anyway, you get the idea. All I'm going to do is trim the inside of that off now, and I'll be able to just have a tube. Once the job's done, I'll feed that back out of the grommet, and I'll be able to just cut that off. And there you go. Nice, easy way to do it. Of course, you can put wire on there and tape it to the wires, like coat hanger wire or something. I've done that before too, but that's just a nice easy way, and I should be able to get a fair lump of cable through that. So there you go, an idea for you. Now, when I put the dual battery system in, so I had to put, I used the genuine Toyota tray. I mounted the battery in that, but this washer bottle was mounted here, so it had to move. So I had this bracket from the old truck that I mounted in place and fitted that up. To make that work, I had to extend the wiring for the washer bottle motor. So I just extended that and ran that in place. I've also got this in the 80 series Toyotas and some other Toyotas as well. They have these power outlet boxes, and inside here you've got some fuses, but you've got an earth point, you've got a constant battery, you've got an accessories and an ignition point. And what that's great for is hooking up your accessories to the different power points. You might want your UHF radio to be on constant battery power, so you can always leave your UHF on whilst you're at camp, but the car's turned off. Or you might want it to only operate on accessories. You can tap into that supply from here. So what I've done, I had one of these out of the old truck. So I've taken it and I've mounted it up inside the car. I've duplicated that inside the vehicle. So inside there, my UHF, some power outlets, my lockers, my relay for the high beam for the spotlights, they're all coming off this power block inside the car now. So I've got it fused. It's just a nice, easy way to replicate that. And again, it costs me nothing, because remember, this is a no budget build. All right, what we have done as well, I've done the snorkel. Okay, so again, when I did this, I just got the old guard and I cut and made my own little template, duplicated that on here and mounted the snorkel. It probably took me an hour and a half, 2 hours to have the whole snorkel plumbed in and wide. The worst part of that job, there's 4 bolts on the snorkel and they're right up inside the guard, and it's all a bit big to hurt. All right, what else have we done? I've got the rock sliders on. All right, so gave them a coat of paint. I've still got to paint underneath them, but got them on. They're ready to rock and roll. With regards to the suspension, I've got the shock absorbers in there now, the Tough Dog adjustable shocks, and they're working fine. But here in New South Wales, when you go to get a vehicle registered, they're absolutely miserable about what they'll register. So I've kept the standard old clapped out springs in the front so that she sits low, and then once we get it registered, then we'll put the 3-inch suspension in. So she'll go up a bit on the front. The back's got the 3-inch in there, but by the time I put the rear bar on, I think she'll drop down all right. So let's have a look inside here. I thought I'd jump in this side instead and make it easier for me to show you. So over here, we've got the air compressor for the lockers. Okay, so that doesn't work on off, but on ignition that comes on. So that comes on, then we've got rear locker and front locker, okay? And they're isolated, so the lockers won't come on unless the compressor's on. This is the spotlights control, so that just on and off and that only works with the high beam of the headlights. So that's all been wired in. Then over here in the center console, there's the Oricom radio, and the control box for that is mounted down under the center console in there. So that's powered from that distribution box I showed you. Then we've got a couple of cigarette plug lighters and a little USB job in there for him. So that works there. And other than that, the dash is pretty standard. You know, that's his 4-wheel drive, hazard lights, rear demister, and yeah. So that's about how she's set up. On the dash here, I've got the Oricom tyre pressure monitoring system, and so that's a solar powered unit, and the sensors are down on the wheels for him. So other than that, where we're at now is I've installed the sub tank in the back, so he's got dual fuel tanks, no LPG anymore. We removed all of that. And the vehicle is basically at a point where I could take it down the road and get it registered and go driving. But my young fella doesn't get his license until November, so there's no point registering this for him yet. So I've got some other projects I need to work on, so I'm going to hook into those other projects, namely it's the race car, and so there'll be content coming out around that. But what I'm going to do, we're going to chop all of this story together. This will be the end of it now, until we get it registered. And when we get it registered, well, we'll do another video like this where we'll just go right over the vehicle. It'll be fully detailed at that point, and I reckon it'll be looking $1 million. We'll take it out wheeling and just, you know, let Jesse, my young fella, show off the vehicle, and we'll just have a video around that. So until November, and probably it'll be in December, there'll be no more about the COVID 80. I hope you've enjoyed this build. I hope you've learnt a bunch of different things. But you know what? For those of you who are young and you want to get into a good 4-wheel drive cheap, here's an example of how you can do it. I've put a lot of hours into this, and that doesn't necessarily cost you money. So if you've got time but you don't have money, this is a way that you could build a good, capable 4-wheel drive. I would say for $5,000, you could be up and running, as long as you're able to do that elbow grease and make the effort for that. And here he's going to be getting a vehicle that's got a winch, it's got twin locked, it's got suspension, it's got all the fruit. You can get a lot of that stuff from Facebook Marketplace, from Gumtree, and around about the place. You know, I got a lot of it from the vehicle I already owned, but a lot of people can, you know, supply that to you. So you can definitely build a very cool 4-wheel drive at a very low budget level. All right, guys, I hope that's been helpful. I'm Mad Matt. Stay safe on the trails.